Good day, boys and girls. We're back to dog walking, doing some new trails. Yeah, I haven't recorded in a couple of days. So, as always, you wait a couple of days and all kinds of crap happens, especially in the U.S. circus. Not quite sure about the bread, but definitely the circus. Well, as I was saying, there will be another attempt on Trump's life, and there was, kinda. There's probably going to be another one after this. Still a long ways to November 5th, and a very long way after that to the presidency. And even in the presidency, America has a tendency of killing its presidents. So, yeah. Well, this guy is a real treat. Or else, he's a whack job. That's obvious enough for anybody. Manipulated whack job or not, I don't know, but definitely a whack job. So, and a con artist, from what I understand. If you look at him, he's a petty criminal to begin with. I mean, look at his police record: concealed carry of a weapon without permit, hit and run, bad checks, resisting arrest. Well, resisting arrest in the U.S., of course, doesn't mean that you actually resist arrest. It could also mean you just kind of looked the wrong way at the cop who's writing you a ticket or something. American police play very fast and very, very loose with the law, just like the U.S. itself does. So, as we go on, this guy, so obviously he's no combat veteran, because number one, maybe he was lying in ambush. If he was going to take a shot with an AK, regardless of what variant, even with a scope, at 400 meters, 350, 400 meters, yeah, that's a pretty damn long shot. Trump's not a small figure, but still, for an untrained guy, that's a long shot. I mean, we trained on the rifle range up to 500 meters, but I mean, that's somebody that doesn't train a lot. His chances of hitting a moving target at 500 meters with an AK, and at 500 meters, an M16 is much more accurate than AK. AK drifts, something you got to compensate for. Drifts downward, so you got to kind of aim a little higher at distance. At 200 meters, AK is absolutely great. 250, and then, truth be told, your average initiation of combat since World War I, post World War I, has been at 50 meters or closer. Simply put, because if I spot you coming in at 150, 200 meters, probably won't live long enough to get up to nice and close range. So the job of the infantry is to get as close as possible for initiating contact, hostilities. So at 200 meters, that's already a long shot. It's a medium shot. But definitely 400 meters with an AK. I mean, really, in some of this, he could have gotten a 22. He could have gotten a 30-06. Just a plain hunting rifle with a good scope would have done much better, make more sense. So I don't know. But the fact is that, some say Trump had this set up, maybe, or the Democrats set him up. Absolutely, possibly. But if the Democrats set him up, that means he's got at least one rat in his detail. Just think about it. This was an unplanned event, last-minute decision. This guy knew where to go, what course he was playing, because there's usually multiple courses on a golf course. And he was able to get out there and set up ahead of Trump. So, yeah, that raises quite a few questions. This guy was a Yuki supporter, nut job, terrorist. Ukraine has this big thing about attracting terrorists and working with terrorists. Why? Because they're CIA funded. They're CIA trained. And the CIA is a terrorist organization. Through and through. None about American security and all that other silly crap. It's a terrorist organization. The New York Times half a year ago told us. And a big expose, and the New York Times doesn't say anything that the CIA doesn't tell it to say. It told us that the For 10 years, the CIA and MI6 were working with the SBU, set up whole new branches of it for terrorism, or asymmetrical warfare. Terrorism. That's like saying instead of saying shell shock, that's or combat fatigued. It's post-traumatic stress disorder. Which is, boy, is that ever abused in the U.S. Pretty much so any stressful situation, you've got post-traumatic stress disorder in the U.S. And here's some pills for it while you're at it. And come back and get some more scripts. So, just wrote an article. It's a Russian article, so most of you probably won't be reading it. Turns out in 2022, the Congressional Research Center put out this little paper. Well, it's not that little because it has a lot of things to list. So it was a paper that listed off all the times since 1798. I'm not sure why they took 1798 and not say 1776. But since 1798, all the times the U.S. government has used military force, and we're not talking special ops, we're talking the military, the Army, the Navy, later on the Air Force, Marines, in combat actions outside the U.S. border. They did not count inside the U.S. border to suppress rebellions like the Whiskey Rebellion and various other tax rebellions that came up against Washington right after the U.S. became a sovereign nation. And taxes went up quite a bit, and banks were taking the farms of people that fought in the Continental Army. They came home and their families are on the streets because the banks took them up. Like, thanks for fighting, but you weren't paying your mortgage, so bye-bye. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you start digging into U.S. history, and man, it is a shit show. It is a serious shit show. As opposed to all the white and fluffy BS that the kids get taught in school and foreigners get taught and Hollywood shows you. The reality is an absolute shit show. I can't say shit show enough. Shit show. Yeah, the more you climb into it, the worse it gets. We're doing an article on how white people became white. That is not Anglo-Saxons or Germanics and Scandinavians, but how Slavs, Italians, Greeks, Armenians became white. That is, by law in the U.S., they got recognized as white people, and that was a whole separate issue. Yeah, especially blonde, blue-eyed Slavs, northern Slavs, who weren't considered white. Yeah, so yeah, talk about shit show. So, Drago, подожди, gotta give him a treat. Yeah, a little bit of a cough. So anyways, where was I? Yeah, so since 1798, the U.S. has used military force 469 times. 469 times. And the best part of it, since 1991, 251. So more than half of that volume of military interventions worldwide has been just in the past 30 years. Now you're going to sit down and you're going to start thinking, how many can I count up? No, you're not going to come up with nearly that many. And yes, this includes all the Indian wars and things like that. This does not include special ops. This does not include coups. This does not include color revolutions or all the other crap Washington loves to do to everybody else. Or, like I said, internal use. They don't even count the Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, in this volume of murdering foreigners and stealing their stuff. I mean, the Roman Empire are like Boy Scouts. Hell, Boy Scouts are like Cub Scouts compared to the Americans. And, yeah, so much for the city on the hill, shiny white place for we defend the innocent and the weak and all the other bullshit that Washington likes to spin. So, yeah, there's that moment. I mean, think about that. That's non-stop interventionism everywhere. but the U.S. military. Now, this could be anything from a squad, or maybe a platoon. Squad probably not, but platoon element up to divisions and armies. Now, by the U.S. Constitution, unless fighting in self-defense, only Congress can authorize the use of military force. That is a declaration of war. Now, how many times out of the 469 events did the U.S. military have a declaration of war on its hands to be able to do what it does? 11. And not once since World War II. 11. Out of 469 occasions. Think about that. Think about that. That means every single American president is a criminal. Every single American president, and Congress included, that tolerate this, all are in breach of the U.S. Constitution, the supposedly highest law of the land. And when you start going, oh, it's only been subverted recently. No, it's been subverted from day one. I don't think the ink dried before they started going, yeah, kind of. Well, this isn't really a law. This is more like a guidance. We'll talk about it as guidance. Other interesting news in clown world, 24/7. Last year, I was told by very reliant sources, there was about 180,000 requests by Germans, Russian Germans living in Germany, and these are the guys who've been living there for a while, because the newer arrivals still have their passports, to reestablish their Russian passports. So the trickle of Russian German particularly, migration to Russia is turning into a flood. And behind them are quite a few Germans that never had any dealings with Russia, except maybe some extended family, born in Germany and starting to move back, or move to Russia. We even, about 4 months ago, had a member of parliament from the Alternative Future for Germany party who got asylum in Russia because on Trump charges they were going to take away her 2 children. The ruling traffic light coalition of different shades of socialists. They're going to take her children, confiscate her children. That's the kind of pressure they put on people. So she ran here for a future. And I will be doing a interview, hopefully this week or the weekend, with a friend of mine. Martina has been living in Russia for a very long time. She's German. She just married to a Russian. She just went to Germany, spent a couple weeks there with family, and she's going to tell us all about the real situation in Germany, as opposed to what you're well, if you're an American, you're not hearing shit. The U.S. media keeps you dumb and in the dark, kind of like mushrooms. Fed shit and kept in the dark. Yeah, so she's going to tell us all about what's actually been going on in deindustrialized police state Germany. So, yeah, there's that. Food for thought. The Germans are moving to Russia, and Russia welcomes the Germans. I've talked to Germans who came back and said, in Russia we were called Germans. In Germany we were called Russians. But whereas in Russia, the Germans past being called German, and maybe some dumbass once in a while calling them a Nazi or something like that, the Germans in Russia are welcomed and intermix very easily with the Russian population. While the Germans from Russia moving to Germany, particularly West Germany, are treated as second-class people. Of course, the East Germans are treated as second-class people with the West Germans. They rarely get good jobs. They rarely get promoted. They get treated as second-class. That's why they don't particularly like Germany. And maybe it's time for East Germany to be a separate state again. Let's not forget, Germany, as a unified entity, has a history of less than 100 years. That's right, 100 years. And it's been broken up into blocks. So, and 2 world wars and possibly a 3rd world war in those 100 years. So I think maybe Project Germany is time for it to come to a close. I think it's time to start Project Bavaria again, and Project East Germany, and Project West Germany minus Bavaria. And maybe even not even for full West Germany. Because that's how it rolls. Sometimes you got to say, project was a failure. You can't let the Germans be unified, because inadvertently, this is what happens when it comes to power, as soon as they unify. And a good portion of the population isn't thrilled with it, but they get no say. That's how the German democracy works, or European democracy. But yes, Germans are moving to Russia, and they're moving to Russia because we respect their religion. Many are Orthodox, most are they're moving are Catholics. We have no problem with that, by all means. We're conservative, family-oriented, traditional. Yes, we do have issues like every nation has issues. We do have high divorce rates, which is a very big problem. Alcoholism, not so much so anymore. I think we're trending toward number, I think, 13 as far as a list of nations by alcohol consumption this year. And the rest are almost all the rest ahead of us are all Europeans. They're drinking their sorrows away. And Americans aren't that far behind. But Americans tend more to hard drugs and get rid of their sorrows, like fentanyl, when you can't get the real stuff, heroin. So that's how that rolls. So yeah. So there's the clown world, and there's just the super. Oh, and check out this video. Yes, what you see in this video, and share this video by all means. What you see in this video is a shooting range at an amusement park in Odessa. Odessa is in southwest Ukraine. And yes, those are photos of Trump. So they're paying to shoot at Trump. That's how much Ukraine loves you. Think about it. Who your enemies are and who your friends are. Cheers. God bless.